That's a coordinated effort, though. That's coordinated. All right, welcome, everybody. We call this meeting to order. Today is June the 21st. This will be a workshop for the meeting that will be held on June 26th. Before we begin, let us all give congrats and welcome to our new Assistant City Manager sitting over there at the dais. So you're going to always remember your first meeting. So this is it. So, you know.
Are you congratulating him on being appointed or congratulating me on making the appointment?
Both. You both did well. So both did well. Okay, if I could get a roll call from our Deputy City Clerk, please.
Yes, Commissioner Mercer. Here. Commissioner Yates.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Birdsong.
Here.
Mayor Dantzler.
Here. Okay, on to ordinance second reading, public hearing. These are all second readings. T, why don't you just go through them slowly and quickly or whatever you need to do if there's anything changed.
Certainly, be happy to, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, the first items you have this evening are 2315 and 2316. These came to you some time back. I'm trying to find the exact date of that. I believe it was around April 24th. This is property that is down off of Old Bartow Lake Wales Road, covers 65.92 acres. They're requesting that we assign residential low density future land use and multifamily residential low density zoning to these annexed parcels. These were annexed in January of this year. The petitioner intends to develop these with residential, although we don't know exactly what that mix is going to look like. So theoretically, the maximum number of units that could go on this property is 659. We did transmit this after the first reading to the state for their review. DEO issued us a letter late in May indicating that they had no comments or objections. We also received similar communication from SwiftMud as well as from DEP. We did not receive letters from the Central Florida Regional Planning Council, the DOT, or Polk County Schools, or Polk County as the county itself. As I said, the R3 zoning would allow maximum development of 659 single-family units. The chart within your fact sheet spells out what that infrastructure looks like, and there is sufficient water, sewer, and transportation to meet those demands. Of course, final concurrency will be made at the time the property receives its site plan approval and is developed. All of our notifications have been met on this, and at this point, staff is recommending the commission approve both of these ordinances, 2315 and 16, on second reading. I'll answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions on 15 or 16 or 9A, 9B? All right.
Okay.
Let's see.
2321. This is we just heard this one 2 weeks ago. This is the Hart Car Wash property located just across US 17. You can see on the map there. And 610 is requesting a rezoning of this from commercial highway C3 to commercial downtown C1. We don't know what they plan to do with it at this point. However, they do intend to redevelop the property with uses that are consistent with our C1 zoning. So at this point, we are recommending that this one continue through second reading for approval.
Any questions on the 610 idea? Okay.
All right, next to 2322 and 2322 and 2323. This is the Palm Garden of Winter Haven Health and Rehabilitation Center that was built in 1987 down off of Cypress Gardens Boulevard. And this is a request to amend their land use from traditional neighborhood area FLU to a commercial future land use, and then rezone that same parcel from single family residential large lot R1 to commercial neighborhood C2 zoning. The current use of it is considered a legal non-conforming within that R1 zoning district. So in order to render that property a legal conforming use and provide the ability to reestablish it should something happen to it, if it were to burn down or be destroyed, the petitioner is requesting these changes so they could redevelop it accordingly. This has gone through its first reading. It was unanimously recommended for approval by the Planning Commission back in May, and we are recommending that it continue through its second readings for 2322 and 2323.
Questions, commissioners? Okay.
2328, this is just a simple budget ordinance. We had budgeted funds within the general fund for a vehicle that has been deemed not necessary there, but we do have a need for that vehicle within our facility maintenance unit. So it's just a matter of transferring from one fund to the other, which requires commission approval. And then 2332 is an annexation by the Wynn family out off of more on the east side of Cypress Gardens Boulevard. You can see it on your map there. Immediately adjacent to this, to the left or to the west of the property, would be where the 7-Eleven convenience store is located. And they are seeking annexation to develop this property within the city. Not sure what that will be when it's all said and done, but this annexation does reduce the size of an existing enclave.
Okay, commissioners, on to consent agenda. Let's see, anybody got any issues on 10A?
Just for reference, Mayor, 10A is the project that Todd Gooding had presented to the commission in presentation just
Right.
last meeting. 10B is this is kind of an after the fact approval on some emergency sewer repairs. This is the road Wexford Court runs out to the clubhouse there at Cypress Wood. There was a problem there that we had to get some assistance in repairing. So that work has been completed. So this again is an after the fact, it's an emergency repair. 10C is a change order that addresses lift station 118. This lift station is going to be off of, I believe it's 17th Street Northwest as it crosses the canal going from Lake Cannon to Lake Mirror or Lake Mirror. It's at the very north end there. We just have a change order to deal with some soil conditions and some utilities that had to be addressed that were not identified in the design. 10D is another emergency repair. This one's a little more significant. We've had a lot of talk about wastewater treatment plant 3 in recent months as we talk about WIPI and some other things. I see that David Nicholson, our manager for the wastewater treatment plants, is here this evening. He and his team have been working to address some leaks that are in a major 36-inch line that runs internal of the system. This happened back in early June, and we have been working basically around the clock to address that. They are in the process of making the repairs now. The estimated cost for those repairs, again, we're dealing with a 36-inch steel pipe that does not have really any valves within it to shut it down. So our repairs for this system are just shy of, or just over $485,000. So this has been approved at my level to move forward so we can get that work underway. The repair work is in process right now, but this is a major challenge for us. If that system goes down, if that line were to fail, we would have quite the mess on our hands out there. We have been in touch with DEP and have been keeping them fully apprised of the leak that we had and the containment efforts that we had, as well as the repairs that are underway.
I had a question, but you asked it.
Okay. Yeah, there's and we'll be able to give you some more update on that as they continue out the repairs, some photos to give you a little better understanding of what that's involved. But this is, I'll say it in my lay terms of it, this is the pipe that's running from the main headworks out to the air bay chambers. So it's carrying all that sewage internal of the system. And when it goes down, then wastewater treatment plant 3 can't operate. So it's a matter of rerouting the system through some pumps and then getting the pipe in and doing a massive replacement of that line.
How long is it going to take, you think?
David, I'll ask you if you would come to the podium and address that, please, sir.
We're looking at, let's see, we're making progress. It's slow but steady. I say about 2 weeks,
I mean,
maybe 2 weeks. Hopefully sooner if the weather holds, but everything's been bypassed. The bypass is working well. There's nothing on the ground right now. It's just a case of getting the repairs done, getting the digging done, getting the pipes in place. It's
So you- So you've already started.
yes, yes, we have.
So 2 weeks, so we're looking at maybe the second week in
We start on Tuesday.
February. July. July,
Yeah, we're hoping by the end of this month, maybe first week in July.
okay.
But we'll have a better idea when we start really laying the pipe down. We'll be making some progress and getting the prep work done, but we're getting there.
Part of the challenge with that project is, one, you have to find the 36-inch pipe in enough capacity to replace what's damaged. And then the pump systems to bypass that are massive pump systems that you don't just go find, down the street of the rental company. You're if you can find them within the state, you're doing good.
So do you think it's just old?
Age. Yes, sir. That pipe, pipe is gonna break down over time. This is close to 50-year-old cast iron pipe that developed these two leaks within it. Fortunately, this is a facility that's manned 24 hours a day, so staff identified it quickly to respond and could, put in containment measures and mitigation very quickly while we work for a solution on it.
10E and 10F.
Those are just our authorization for travel to the Florida League of Cities annual conference in August, as well as travel for the mayor and mayor pro tem to the Florida League of Mayors annual meeting. I think that's the day before the league starts their program.
Just quickly, AJ, we can still change our mind on this, right? Get a refund or,
Yes, sir. Those 5 days before to cancel hotels, things like that.
okay. Cause I don't normally stay in a hotel when I go to this on Orlando, but sometimes I do, but not the whole week. I know that. So
It's easier to book it, cancel it, than scramble.
thank you for that. Okay, resolution 11A.
This is just getting a jump start for September. As you know, we often have to move one of our meetings so that we don't conflict with either the Board of County Commissioners or the school board in their budget readings. And so that first meeting in September would normally occur on September 11th. We are recommending we move that to Tuesday, September 12th.
There's a CRA meeting at 5, so it'd be after that, right?
We'll have to move both of them, yes, sir, just for convenience.
Okay. All right, ordinance first reading, public hearing.
I'm gonna ask Eric to, the fact sheets on these are extremely well written and give a lot of clarity, but Eric can probably give it in a nutshell faster than I can on what this change is that we're doing with the commercial downtown C1 zoning district.
Yes, sir. Mayor Commissioner. So Heather Reuter was the author, so she gets the kudos. Table 2132A is our table of land uses in the land development code. That table essentially tells you what uses can go in which zoning district. We're proposing some modifications to the C1 zoning district specific to childcare facilities, assisted living facilities, funeral homes / mortuaries, artisan production, small scale, personal storage units and package stores. And you can see in the fact sheet there, childcare facilities and assisted living facilities would be changing from permitted uses to either a special use or not permitted. Funeral home, mortuary would go from a special use to not permitted. Artisan production, a special use to permitted. Personal storage units from not permitted to accessory special use, and package stores from special use to permitted. The only use that we'd be rendering non-conforming at this point would be one funeral home mortuary. The Planning Commission did hear this at their June 6, 2023 regular meeting. As a note, in that meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this request to include a modification to churches and religious meeting places from permitted to special use. After a review of that recommendation by the City Attorney's Office and some concerns regarding the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, we have removed that from the ordinance before you. And so churches and religious meeting places would not be impacted by these changes. Staff does recommend approval of ordinance 02331.
Eric, what were you talking about? Mortuaries?
Yes, sir.
Would you go over that again? Because so we've got a little bit of an issue brewing with that one on First Street.
Yep, so as you know, we recently, one was recently approved within the C1 downtown
Right.
zoning district. There was, some concern over that use and whether or not it was appropriate in C1. Our code did allow it as a special use and it was approved by the planning commission to be located there. So moving forward, should this ordinance pass, the mortuaries would no longer be permitted within C1 zoning district.
But the one that we just did
Would now
allowed to
become a
stay.
non, yes, sir. It could stay as a non-conforming use. Should it ever change uses, it would have to convert to something that's allowed in C1.
And to, I don't want to derail everything, but I'll talk to you about that case afterwards,
Yes, sir.
because I've just been getting phone calls on that one. Okay, anybody else on 11A? All right, 12A, ordinance first reading. Good, T.
Okay, so 12A, another very effectively prepared fact sheet for you here. This one really deals with trying to address some challenges we're having with our facilities that are designated as banquet halls or bottle clubs in Winter Haven. And Eric, you want to run with this one as well. Again, this is cleaning up something that gives us a little better control and put some more tools in the toolbox when these folks when we have some of these operations that, hey, it's going to be a banquet hall, but it ends up operating more like a bar. And they haven't had to go through the same process. So our ability to really control gets limited there.
Yes, sir. So this really was a joint effort between planning, safe neighborhoods, and our public safety police department. Our code is a little bit confusing when it comes to banquet halls. If they are located more than 150 feet from properties zoned AG, RE, R1, R2, or RM, or within a shopping center, they're permitted by right. Okay, you can do a banquet hall there. Or permitted by right in C1, C3, C4, I1, and I2. Likewise, banquet halls located within 150 feet of properties owned AG, RE, R1, R2, or RM zoning districts and not within a shopping center have to be reviewed by the planning commission as a special use. So within those same zoning districts. What this essentially does is it treats banquet halls the same as we treat large scale bars, drinking establishments. And so they will all be treated and permitted in the same manner, in the same fashion. Instead of requiring special use if you're not within a shopping center or within 150 feet of these certain zoning districts. And so the approval required, which is the same as the large scale drinking establishment would be that if you're more than 150 feet from those zoning districts that I just mentioned or within a shopping center, you would be a special use. If you're within 150 feet of those zoning districts or in a shopping center, you would also be a special use. If you're within 150 feet of the zoning districts and not in a shopping center, you're not permitted. You couldn't do a banquet hall. And this resulted as we had permitted some of these banquet halls according to the existing zoning code. And they began to operate more like large scale drinking establishments, like bars or like nightclubs. And so this puts all those rules and regulations that we have with large scale drinking establishments in effect for banquet halls as well.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Okay.
You can go. Wanted to talk a little bit about the special use and first of all, about the ones in the shopping centers. And I know you say that it's by rights. What happens if we have one that says that, let's just say they're a drinking establishment, but that's kind of a cover for other things that are going on?
I think I might ask Heather to come up. She worked very close with the public safety team to help address that question.
And does this have anything to do with 12B as well? Are we talking about kind of both of these items at the same, or are they totally different?
We're on 12B.
This is 12B.
Oh, I thought we were still on 12A.
No.
Okay, sorry.
Heather Reuter, Senior Planner for the record. So to answer your question, Commissioner Mercer, we have had some that have come in and say that they are a banquet hall, and then they begin having promoter type activities that are similar to that you would have at a large scale drinking establishment. And so then they became a code enforcement issue, were cited. Some of those have stopped operations, some have applied and went through the special use as a large scale drinking establishment. And so instead of splitting hairs between, are you truly a banquet hall, or are you possibly a front for a large scale drinking establishment, or are you a banquet hall who rents out to people who are going to do promoter type events that are similar to that at bars? We thought it was best to just make it all special use. We can put the proper conditions on the property based on a site specific to mitigate any impact to the surrounding areas. It also puts them into the same rules and regulations for revocation should they extend past what they're allowed to do.
Okay. Another question. 150 feet from a residential establishment, especially if they have bands and things, is not a lot of space between. Sound travels quite easily that way.
Certainly. So we didn't do a major overhaul of this section of code. So that is something I think down the road that we would like to do to kind of simplify this a little bit. But right now it was kind of an immediate need to address the banquet halls. So we're just making it the same as what already is in place for large scale drinking establishments. As far as noise and things of that, they're subject, no matter where they're located, to the city's noise ordinance. And so if there's an impact in that, that would be a police matter.
And just for clarity, if they are within 150 feet of those residential districts and they're not in a shopping center, they're not permitted.
Okay, good. Okay.
Tracy, weren't you talking earlier about a front for something, or that these,
Yeah, that's what she answered.
she got your question? Okay.
The
All
question.
right. I just want to make sure you got your question answered. Yeah.
I was just wondering, where are these?
So some examples that we had a banquet hall called August Heat Events that opened up on Dundee Road in the strip center across from Cypress Wood. Came in as a banquet hall, and then they started having promoter type events. So they stopped operation when code reached out to them and have since obtained special use approval as a large scale drinking establishment. We also have another open code case on an event hall that has stopped operation and has applied for special use approval in Spring Lake Square.
Okay, that's.
We voted on that a couple of times, Nat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, don't you remember that's coming up?
So there's a limitation. I didn't see anything about square footage.
There's no regulations as far as square footage, minimums or maximums as far as the use.
Okay.
Heather, can you expand on what is a special use going through that process, what the typical conditions are that the planning
Certainly.
commission looks for?
So the way our code defines a special use, that basically 99% of the time that should be permitted within that zoning district, but requires that extra level of public hearing to put those conditions that may mitigate. So some conditions we are looking at, especially when they're located in these shopping centers, that there's no outdoor activities that would be permitted with them, that way they're not extending their use out into the parking lot where they have a lot more ample space in their smaller unit. Different mitigations as far as type of security that they may be required to have if they are using outside promoters to come in and host events. Very similar to what we are putting on our large scale drinking establishment. People can't wait a certain occupancy level, can't wait outside to enter in. So you don't have a form of people waiting outside, loitering, waiting to come in when the capacity gets where they could enter. So those are some of the things that we're looking at with mitigation. Today too, as I'll point out, as the code stands, whether this change goes forwards or not, they are required to do it in a security plan that is reviewed and approved by our chief of police. And so with it, that this will just add on to it with conditions on the special use that are sometimes already in the security plan. It's just another level of enforcement and clarity of what is expected for them to operate.
Heather, you brought up a good point about the minimum square footage. Don't you think we should have a minimum square footage or not? What's the logic behind not, I mean, if it's 100 square feet, it's really, or what? Talk to me about that.
We don't have minimum square footages with any of our commercial uses. The only time we go into minimum square footages is with living areas in our residential areas. So,
But
you know,
event space-
they would still be subject to fire marshal and occupancy. So they couldn't exceed whatever occupancy was set by the
Okay.
fire marshal.
So it's fire chief or the police still have discretion,
Yes,
no
sir.
matter what the size is. Basically, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Again, my review of it, Mayor and Commissioners, is that this just gives us some additional tools in the toolbox to ensure protection of the folks that are going to these facilities by being able to impose certain security requirements and safety requirements. It ensures maintaining the quality of life for the folks that are in generally close proximity by not allowing these things to spill out into parking lots, and gives a little more scrutiny into actually what's happening within those spaces. It's a lot of times those banquet halls they'll get set up, and then suddenly here comes a promoter in to run something. It becomes suddenly a nightclub,
Right.
and we don't know about it. And so our capacity to respond to that and hold them, accountable for that, we're a little bit hamstrung in that. So this just tightens it up. They can still do the things that they want to do, but we're getting some assurances on the front end and putting in some protections for our residents at the same
Okay.
time.
Sounds logical to me. Anybody
sir.
else? Thank you, Heather. All right,
Your last item, Mayor and Commissioners, is just with respect to the Florida League, we're gonna have to provide them a designation of who our voting member will be for the conference in August. So we're asking to have that action taken so we can communicate that back.
we just need to make sure whoever it is actually going to be there.
Yeah.
No, who's going to be there for every,
I usually go even if I'm,
you can do it?
even if I'm not the delegate, I just like to go and see, because.
Brian wants to do it. He's never done it. You okay with him doing it?
I'm fine with it.
Yep.
I'm gonna accompany you. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause so you.
We always point me in the right direction
Yeah.
anyway. It's
Just don't get it wrong.
It's still the right way.
Yeah.
You got a standard to pull, so good. All right, so you can go ahead and put Brian in as our delegate for that.
And we'll take official action on that for Monday night.
Oh, okay. All right, anything else people consider the order? Anybody on that side? The MJ, that was easy.
I did tell MJ this morning, because I have a child that's sick at home. I said, okay, first meeting, you're gonna run it all by yourself. But it is very nice to know that if I have to miss one of these.
Yeah, I think you can do it. Okay, anything else? All right, we'll see you Monday night. We're adjourned.
Thank you.